This was the very first concrete pour for our new fence here in the Philippines. And something immediately kind of stuck out to me. Something that just didn't quite look right. It looked much wetter than it should. Much wetter than I expected in this concrete. In fact, I thought it's too wet. And if this concrete is too wet, maybe it's not going to be as strong as we need as these foundational pillars are being poured, and could end up cracking in a big problem because we're going to end up putting a roof over the top for the carport. Now, here's the problem I'm going to run into. I'm not a contractor. So if I say something and I'm wrong, I look like that foreigner trying to tell the experienced Filipino contractor how to do his job and how the workers to do their job. And that might not go over too well, depending upon the personality and the type of person the contractor is. But if I stayed quiet and there was a problem, I'm going to wish I would have said something. So what do? I mean, what if I'm right? What if the mix is too wet and it's going to affect the structural strength of the concrete? Well, let's go back to where we started this week. Let's go back and take a look. Because last week, we broke through the limestone, began digging all of the post holes so that we could begin this process of building the fence. And this week, everything should be coming together because we've seen all of the components delivered. Sand, gravel, rebar, which they also call dowels, which is kind of interesting, concrete blocks, and even the cement mixer arrived. Noisy thing, but it works. And for the first time, it actually felt like we're building something permanent. We're actually in process on this project. Well, these rebar cages become the backbone of every fence column. And once these columns are poured with concrete, there's really no easy way to go back and fix them. So they need to be positioned correctly and in the right place and put together correctly. And if you've ever planned an outdoor project, you already know who's really in charge, especially in the rainy season in the Philippines, and that would be the weather. Overnight, we had quite a bit of rain, and every single post hole had about a meter of water in each of the holes, and they were completely filled. And I was concerned, how was that going to affect the concrete? So it was another question I had to reach out to the contractor on. As the crew was going to have another challenge, they were going to have to empty out that water before they could even think about pouring the concrete. I mean, you can't pour concrete into about 3 feet of water, right? One of the things that we're going to have to do is repipe from the main coming in on the street to the house. And this is the reason why. Right now, the guys outside are working with concrete, and they have the water going right now to add to the concrete. Now, let me show you what happens. So this is the outside hose, like you're watering the front lawn, right? So let me show you what happens. So now we'll turn on the water here, and that's the water pressure that I have inside the house right now. So you couldn't take a shower, you couldn't run the washing machine. You know, it's pretty limited here. And when they turn off that hose, then, you know, this will come back to full power. But this is a problem. So that's why we're going to go ahead and repipe in the front and probably bring it in from a 1/2 inch up to 3/4 and go directly to the house. We'll have to see if that works or whether we have to put in some type of a tank pump system. Not sure yet, but we're going to check all that out. But that's the reason why. So the other day, Lynn was outside watering the plants, and I wanted to take a shower, and I had to wait until she was done. So I'm going to fix that one. So you can see here the guy's carrying this tray. It looks aluminum to me. It could be steel, but it looks aluminum. But anyway, this is the mixing tray. They use it both for the hand mixing and for the concrete mixing. And what is interesting here, I've never seen this before, but the worker's actually got a can of motor oil. And he's painting the motor oil on the inside of the tray so that when they're done for the day, the concrete will not adhere to the tray and they'll be able to use it again. So that's why he's putting the motor oil everywhere. He also painted all over the base of the concrete mixer for the same reason. Well, this was the moment where I really became concerned looking at this mix and thinking, what's going to happen here? Because I'm not a concrete contractor. That's not my expertise. But as I watched them mix this, it sure looked wetter than any concrete I've ever seen being used for a pour and a foundation. So I was very concerned. Now, I wasn't going to try to tell Rejay, a contractor, how to build a fence. That's his job. But I simply wanted to understand whether what I'm seeing is normal or just the mix need to be adjusted so that we have the optimal mix and we don't have cracking and all of that. So what I did is I showed him a video that I took of his workers mixing the concrete. And I wanted to know, just open-ended, what do you think? To his credit, he didn't become defensive at all. He was more than willing to come over and look at the video. And after he watched it, he agreed that the mix needed to be adjusted. But not just for the reason I was saying, that it was too wet. It was also because we've had so much recent rain that they're going to have to adjust the mix of the concrete. And, as you know, in concrete you have Portland cement mixed with sand, gravel, and water. And that's all mixed together. And getting those proportions correct, and it's important to get that right. So Rejay was really good about me bringing up, showing all of the video so I could point out exactly what I was talking about. And luckily, it was not an awkward conversation, because it sure could have been. There's a lot of contractors that would have not taken the time to come and talk to me about it, because nobody likes being questioned about somebody else's work, right? If this is your job, your expertise, and then you're the customer and you're questioning it, which is okay, but you at least hope you know what you're talking about. And that's when it occurred to me. I think I just learned something. And it wasn't until I spoke with Rejay that I found out that something else actually had happened behind the scenes that was also affecting the concrete mix. And that was that the concrete mixer had broken down.
And this one, but this is already fixed. This one, and also this one, we changed this one because this one there's a clearance. That's why it will not circulate like that.
Oh, it won't circulate?
But now maybe this one we need to clean the carburetor.
So the engine's not running?
Yes, sir.
So the engine's not running even though you make the other repairs, and now
Yes, sir.
it has a flat tire too.
Yes, sir. But this one will not take too long, sir. I will ask my brother to get this one.
Yeah, use the crane. Yeah, it's easier.
We will bring this to the Tagbilaran, sir.
Yeah, because this one's having a hard time.
Yes, sir.
Because now he has a flat tire.
Yeah, that's one.
Now, it had already been taken to a mechanic, and they were working on it. And while it was being repaired, the crew was moving forward by mixing concrete by hand. The workers were doing their very best to get the mix right as they mixed it in this big metal tray. But with all the rain we were having, Rejay stopped by and said, "You know what? I think we're better to stop and come back tomorrow. Let's send the crew home. It's 2 o'clock on a Friday. The mixer should be repaired by tomorrow. We'll have better weather, and then we'll get a better outcome." I appreciated that Rejay felt comfortable enough with me to just tell me straight up, "Hey, my equipment has broken. It needs to be repaired. I've already got it to the shop. And it could affect the quality of the concrete pour if we don't get this adjusted correctly when we mix it by hand." I mean, a lot of guys wouldn't have told me. They're just going to work through it. But instead, he told me, was upfront about it, and we agreed it's probably in the best interest for everyone to stop work because the rain kept coming, and the guys have to sit around and wait, and then have the guys come back tomorrow when the weather's supposed to be better and just start first thing. That seemed to be the best plan. So sometimes little things like this happen on a construction project. There's always something that comes up, and you simply have to adjust in order to keep the project moving forward. By the end of the week, the project finally started looking more like a fence instead of a construction site. It really looked like a war with all the holes everywhere. And this week reminded me that when you're building a home here in the Philippines, it really isn't about the concrete or the rebar or the equipment, although that's important to have the right stuff. It's really about the people you're building it with to make sure that it's done right, that you're collaborating, and you get the best possible outcome. And you really just have to work together when something just doesn't go right. Doesn't go as planned, you've got to move forward and come up with a plan, adjust, and make it work for everybody. Because at times there's as much as 10 workers all working at the same time. And to his credit, they're here every day. First thing in the morning around 8, and they work all the way up to 5, and then Saturday half a day. So this really has given me a little more confidence that we chose the right contractor. I mean, I vetted him, and he's done a lot of different projects around this Royal Palms Cuatro subdivision in particular, but also he's building a house from the ground up, really close to a friend of mine who's building on the lot. And the right contractor isn't someone who doesn't have challenges. They're all going to have challenges. It's really how they react to that, right? It's someone who's willing to take a step back, listen to the customer, adjust where necessary, and then stand behind the work. So don't just give in to the customer because the customer's complaining. Look at it, what's the right thing to do, and then do it.
We are at day 2 of week number 3, and most of the columns are now finished. There's only 3 left that need to be poured. The rest are done. Let me show you in the back where they have the last 3. Here's the tray they used to mix the concrete by hand when the concrete mixer's not working, which is kind of what's been happening. As you can see, you have the rebar, and you have the initial concrete pour for the foundation. And then they put these forms around these, as you can see at the end down here. And then these metal bars to hold it all together. They tighten it, and then they pour the concrete through the top.
Well, next week, the fence really should start to take shape. We should get all of the columns poured. I'm excited for this because I want them to get building on the concrete block. And I'm getting a bit tired of all the mud. And so, with the rain and all, it's kind of a mess. I can't wait till we get to the part of the driveway, but from what I understand, once the perimeter wall is all the way around, they're going to work on the carport. And we want to save the driveway to one of the last things, because if you don't, you're moving around this heavy equipment like the mixer and all of the concrete bags, all of that stuff that's got to come together, rebar and all of that, and you could scratch it. So Rijay told me probably the last thing we're going to do is the driveway. It's like, I really want the driveway now. Rainy season, what can I say? Well, you guys, thanks for watching. And keep an eye out for our next update next week. There should be a lot more progress on this perimeter wall all the way around the property. And also, if you want to follow us along on Facebook, we have our own Island Expats page there. And Lynn puts daily posts of just what's going on in our lives, right? It's just a closer look of our life here in the Philippines. So if that's something you're interested in, that is available to you. Just search for Island Expats on Facebook. And we appreciate you spending your time with us today. We do appreciate that you've got choices, your time's limited. So thanks for watching. And we'll see you in the next video next week. You guys take care.